Today's notes, Rich, will be on your feather finish or feather ending, feather step. And also we'll talk a little bit about the completion of the outside spin before you dance that natural turn. Always have somebody that has something to say. Yeah. So your outside spin was really looking good. You got the legs much tighter together. You're no longer taking that big step on step 2 and trying to overturn. So the key there is remembering to measure those amounts of turn. And I know it feels almost as if you're not doing anything, but it's very, very easy to make that full turn throughout. So you don't need to add anything to it. So that's great. So just be careful that as you finish that final quarter that's made on 3, where you take the movement sideways with the foot, be coming back, because there's still another quarter of a turn to be made through the feet in step 3 of the outside spin. So just do that for a moment. So here I am, that's my diagonal wall of the short wall. So I'm twisting underneath my body, not taking the step. You're doing that really well. There's 3/8 of a turn made there. This one is taken against the line of dance, coming around to here, and then there's that additional turn that is made as we complete the outside spin. So the fault before that, I think you've corrected. There's that big step here, way too much turn here, trying to arrive at the final alignment instead of allowing the turn to continue as the heel comes down on 3. So I think you've corrected that now, but just be careful of the body turn. I first noticed it in your left arm, but then I saw that what was happening is that the body was continuing to over-rotate the feet. We actually want the upper body to under-rotate the feet just slightly so that you have some place to swing from. So if you think about when you begin your dance, when you begin your waltz, and you do the preparation, in the preparation we're turning to the left in order to help our swing and rotation as we go forward on 1. We don't always have that opportunity when we're dancing. For instance, when we're finishing a chassé, stepping outside partner, we don't have the ability there to use the left side from behind us. We're already in this position. But we do have the opportunity after the outside spin, as long as we don't over-rotate the body on 3 of the outside spin. Then that's where you see sometimes the wobble. So the last couple times I looked at it, looked really, really good. Just want you to remember to keep the left side slightly back. Okay, so as you complete your turn through the feet, don't allow the upper body to twist. If you keep your head a little bit more to the left, it will help you, and also be aware of that connection from the middle of your back out to the left elbow so that this doesn't start to come forward. I do think it wasn't just your left arm, your whole left side was coming around there a little bit. So we are completing the turn through the feet, trying to hold the body back a little bit longer, and then using that to help you swing through the left side. Now, because the next figure we're dancing here, in this case, is the outside change, we won't do the normal 3/8 of a turn on the natural turn. And we've talked about that quite a bit, that it seems that underturning is more difficult to do than overturning, which doesn't seem like it would be the case, but it really is. And overturn is one of the greatest issues that causes problems in the dancing, in balance, and in the frame. So we're only making a quarter of a turn on this natural. Remembering that when you have those open turns with the feet apart, that there's always a need for the turn between step 2 and 3. So if you accomplish the entire turn between 1 and 2, you're going to overbalance on 3. The reason we have that additional 8 is that's what happens with dancing, moving, weight, and physics. There is rotation in the body, there's swivel in the feet, and that turn is going to happen. So if you get to where you want to be on step 2, it's going to be very hard to stop. So the division of turn in this case is really an 1/8 and an 1/8, which doesn't really feel like any turn at all. going to happen very easily. So once again, remember to swing forward. Don't put too much turn into it. I only need to end with my back to the diagonal, and I'm aware that I'm going to have some foot swivel as my feet are closing. So that was the other place, probably because it was a little too much body turn here, as you did 3 of outside spin, carried on to a little too much body turn entering the natural turn. So holding it back, measuring it out, stepping back into the outside change. If I was going to dance a spin turn, then I would need to be backing the line of dance, and I would go ahead with my normal 3/8. So just a point about that, and again, when there was a balance problem, it was because you had too much turn too early. So I think that's all we need to talk about today on the outside spin. Like I said, you've got the legs more disciplined, the alignments, mounts of turn, otherwise they're good. So let's talk about now the feather finish. We've looked at the feather ending over the last month or so, making sure that you take step 3 in CBMP and not allowing the body to go square. You still need to keep focusing on that and measure how the body is coming back to square or passing through neutral, not doing it too early. But we hadn't addressed the feather finish. So the feather ending, of course, is a feather coming from promenade. The feather finish starts backward, turning left. So we have that on your reverse turn, and that is the 4, 5, and 6 of all of your weaves in Foxtrot. So whether you're dancing the end of a weave or a reverse turn, you need to make sure you're aware that you're dancing a feather there. And so what is the issue there? Well, the problem, of course, first one would be letting the arm hang behind you, so you have not accomplished taking your lady in front of you. So I will remind you to advance the lady by making sure that the frame on the right side is inviting her to come through. At this point, it's very easy now to overturn and have the legs open and to not take that step in CBMP. So that's what we want to be concerned about is, yes, we are turning left, but at this point, I think I've talked about this before, there is a slight feeling of a right turn within a left turn. You can't see it. I can feel it. It's a very internal slight spiral right here, what we call the shelf area, towards the girl. If you don't do that, it's going to rotate to the left. Now this would be obviously too much. This would cause something else to happen. So it's an invisible feeling, right? In the early stages, we may simply say, don't change this, but in actual fact, we have a sense very slightly here of this counter spiral where I have a slight right turn within my left turn. So I do need my lady in front of me. I am slipping outside of her, so she's in front of me to my right side. I want to maintain my body correctly to the lady, and then I'm going to try to measure how I bring my body out to go through the neutral and into the 3-step. So that was where we started working last Friday. So you need to spend a little time here seeing if you can balance on basically the same track. It's not exactly the same track, it's more that my heel is in front of my toe. So don't get it over crossed. But just see if you can stand there, rock back and forth on the balls of the feet, and then practice doing the shaping or the sway. The knees and the ankles need to be flexible there to move outside your partner and to also help you with the sway. If the legs are just straight, then you're doing it on your top again. So of course that's a harder position to balance, and we practice doing this sway and shaping exercises with your feet apart or together. And now you need to see if you can do that with your feet in CBMP. So we do have a sway to the right, Sometimes when I tell you to sway to the right, you end up turning to the left. So it's common for the body to confuse the sway with the rotation. I want to stay with my girl, sway to the right, which is knees to the left. And then right here, trying to time, say from my right shoulder to the floor to my left leg, and timing the leg coming through so you don't simply crash. So we'll talk about that a little bit more this week. I didn't have a lot of time to get into this transition. It's one of the most difficult transitions in dancing, is going from the parallel position to the closed position, turning left. Very, very tricky. The next thing we did talk about, and we'll look at that separate because the transition from here to the three-step is difficult. Let's just talk about the three-step. When you go from scratch, so we're just practicing maybe the three-step into the natural telemark or into any natural figure. Instead of standing square to begin, you may want now to wind up a little bit to the right, because the three-step, the right side is going to come forward. Now, one point I made there on the technique, and I don't know if it was clear, we don't specifically discuss a right shoulder lead. The way it's mentioned in the technique is that the right side swinging forward is a result of the CBM taken on the slow. So in the book, that slow is part of the reverse turn. And you'll see that the three-step is actually written with the right foot first, the quicks. Now I understand that they've changed that in the WDSF syllabus. That remains, which is the original approach in the Imperial, and this has a lot to do with the music and the swing being taken on the quicks. That's the way it was originally written. So we can talk about that a little bit more at another time. So when you look in the book, you will not see the three-step starting on the slow. That's part of the preceding figure. I still agree with treating it that way because it's that blending of the quicks to the slow that is a very, very important skill to develop. So onto the three-step instead of flat, or sometimes I see you winding up a little bit to the left. So you're already there, so you may feel as though you have nothing to do. So when we start with the right side slightly back, we will feel the CBM, and then as a result of that, the right side will simply swing forward. You also don't want to try to do that too much. It should be something that happens natural, but it's easy to overdo it. So if you think of the right side forward, you very easily might overturn it, bring the shoulder forward. So we're just going to think of that as a natural reaction to the contra body movement. But what I'm wanting you to be aware of, besides taking that side back, which is where you would be in the feather finish, is the use, again, of the standing leg and the creation here of the movement and the shaping. So I'm going to take my thigh and ankle, working it towards the left. And that's going to take me into that slow. And from there you can see, again, the action of the leg, the standing leg, which produces the shape and the curve and the sway of the three-step. So there's a lot of leg bones and lower joints that are causing this. Now, I still need to be aware of my head, so, and the upper torso. So let's talk about the action and the reaction. The reaction itself is active. So my head weight and my upper body is working against the lower body. So as I produce the shape here, I need to be aware of activating the upper body and not just letting your head sit. It seems on a three-step, particularly for the men, I'll talk about the lady in a moment also, is to simply let the head sit there and go straight forward. You will see a lot of the male professionals do a very exaggerated head movement, and then of course we have that limit on what do you like, particularly how much of use of the head to the left, how far to the left do you like to take it. But it's a little more so than most of the figures that we have in Foxtrot. So I just want you to do some. I just want you to be active in the use of the head and leading the spine, and not to be looking dead forward, because you will be probably square and flat. So there was one other place I noticed that I wanted to talk about, and that was the frame. Sometimes in the 3-step I saw it, sometimes at the end of the outside spin. And there are other places where I'll sometimes see this left arm really moving up very high. So we have some issues with the left arm both falling forward and lifting. Remember that you're trying to create a shape here of the lady's elbow and your left elbow being level with each other. We're also trying to be very aware of the connection, the opposition here of your left arm and your back, so that this swinging arm does not swing from here in a noticeable fashion. Is there some movement? Yes. I'm not going to say there's not. It should not be visible. It needs to be within a range where there's always an organization with the left side of your back. So if it becomes visible, that we can see that left arm moving ahead of you, then it takes the shoulder along and it usually tips you over. So be careful ending your outside spin, if you don't get something like that going. Or if you do your feather, that you don't raise that too high. There is a sway there. It is a bit higher there, but not too much. And then on the 3-step, there should be a sense of the activity of the arm, and the left side needs to continue to move forward. But there's a tightening under my shoulder blade as I have this feeling of opposition through the arms. I think we've talked a little bit about that. Maybe we'll do some more of that this week. I won't get into that too much right now, but just be aware. The thing is, all parts of your body, they want to do something. And they should. Every part of you should be dancing. You just need to make sure that it's moving in the right direction. And sometimes trying to hold it still is as big an enemy as doing the wrong thing. If you know left arm moving forward is not good, let's have the left arm moving back a little bit, as long as you feel it's working from here and visibly it appears to be quiet. Do you agree? I guess it's time to finish. Okay, so hope I haven't forgotten anything, Rich, and I'll see you Friday then.